Hi everyone, this is Balázs from RacingBrick. Today I have not one, not two, but three LEGO sets with me, which at first glance might seem to have nothing to do with each other. Okay, let me tell you two things they have in common. All will be available from the 1st of March and all are marked 18+. But other than that, they are quite different. This is set number 10362 from the Icons theme, the French Café. This is 21062 Architecture, Trevi Fountain, and finally the 31215 art set, the Sunflowers by Vincent van Gogh. So why would I make a joint video about these three sets? I touched on this topic last year when I talked about the Lord of the Rings Barad-dûr and the NASA Artemis SLS, but back then I focused mainly on the Icons theme and why I think there are far too many different things being squeezed under that umbrella. Today is about a slightly different point of view, but a similar problem. LEGO is apparently trying to convince adults to buy more LEGO, not focusing on AFOLs. They are trying to attract people who are brand new to the hobby, but they doesn't seem to help them differentiate the complexity of these builds. Here are these three sets, a relatively small one, the medium-sized architecture set, and the art piece with more than 2600 elements. So, if you were someone who wanted to try LEGO for the first time, which one would you choose? They are all 18+, so that doesn't help you, so I assume you would go for the smallest one, right? Well, you would be wrong. Of these three sets, the smallest is actually the trickiest one to build. The architecture set has some nice details and techniques, but isn't particularly complex, and the sunflowers are mostly about stacking pieces. But even this set can be a challenge for some people. I will show you a few examples in a moment. I think a small remark is needed here because I can already see some people typing furiously, "Yes, I know it's LEGO and originally intended for kids, so any adult should be perfectly capable of building anything this company puts on the shelves. That's how experienced AFOLs usually think. I can also build all these without any problems, thanks for asking. I'm not thinking of myself in this case, but of others who are new to the hobby. I even asked some people with very little LEGO experience around me to test some of these sets because I was curious if they would find any challenges in building them. And, unsurprisingly, they did. Even with the sunflowers, which as I said is the easiest of the three sets. Let me show you what I'm talking about. The set has 34 numbered bags, so the steps are small enough that you don't really have to search for pieces. There's some background information in the manual, how the building process will look like painting by adding layers on top of each other. Then you can read about the painter and the museum. There's even a podcast to listen to, that's a nice extra. And then the building begins. We start with the frame, and I will quickly show you a few things that I would never have found challenging, but if this is your first LEGO build, they are not obvious. For example, what's that black thing on top of the brick with the pinhole? We know it symbolizes hollow studs, but some thought you had to add something on top of that. Or even simple things like distinguishing between a plate and a brick based on the picture, or determining the correct length. I know this is something people should learn if they want to build a LEGO set, but a perfectly valid question came up. Why do we have these 1:1 scale helpers in the technique manuals for axles and beams? Why is the axle length indicated there? Why don't we have it for bricks and plates? Why do we have to count the studs all the time? I think that's a perfectly fair point for beginners. I don't see the difference between counting studs and pinholes, but LEGO only thought of the latter. And remember, those helpers for technique can be found in the expert sets as well. Anyway, from an experienced builder's point of view, once we've built the frame and the core structure, it's just stacking tiles and plates over and over again. It's more like a jigsaw puzzle. We build a large square, expand it, add the frame, and there you have the base layer for painting, on which part of the art is already recognizable. This process was more than 2/3 of the entire build. We only start with the next layer in bag 25. The stacking of pieces continues with the next bag, and then come these two rods whose different lengths are now indicated, which is good, but you won't know which one goes to which side. Since you can't even see the end of the rod on the right, it's a matter of trial and error. Let me help you, the longer one goes on the left side. The only printed tile in the set with a signature has been added, and then we have new kind of challenges. One of these is color recognition. At first glance, it may not be clear which green 2x2 plates to use, but the other pieces in the same color may give you a clue. But not here. There is nothing you can compare with these small pieces, so you need to check the next steps to find out the different shades. The first sunflower might look a bit complicated because the florets vary a bit, but it's still a similar part stacking as before, just sideways. I'm not going to lie, I found the construction of the sunflower heads a bit boring and repetitive, but that was kind of to be expected. I'm just not the target audience here. The other 3D layered structures were more interesting and probably the best part of the build for me, although I can certainly understand that some of these sections can be a challenge for some people. And after a few more of these and those, the painting is finished. The final step is to place it in the frame and secure it with the Technic cross axles. The end result is really impressive, it looks great from a distance, and there are lots of details to discover, especially with the many three-dimensional layers. The attention to detail is remarkable, the designers work closely with the museum and you can feel it. My favorite Easter egg is the brick-built wooden strip that was added to the top to expand the canvas and create more space for the flowers, just like on the original. Maybe I've already spent too much time on the first build, let's have a look at the second one. This is the Trevi Fountain from the architecture series. It has fewer parts but still over 1800. There are a lot of bags in the box, 15 to be exact. The instructions offer an insight into the real building. Then here's the design team's approach to recreating it in Lego form using different shades of pink, tan, grey and white, and finally some nice and informative details about these statues included. What about the building experience? This set was built by my wife, who has built a couple dozen Lego sets already but probably wouldn't call herself an AFOL. As she said, the process was straightforward and without any particular challenges. The base is mostly part stacking. A weird Easter egg is the inclusion of 2 coins in the base, which probably would have been better if you could see them through the transparent elements. Half-stud offsets are very common in this build, and there are a number of interesting building techniques later on. Only with the windows did it perhaps feel repetitive, but the set offered enough variety. She liked the small details and the end result overall, only finding the brick-built horse is a bit odd. My favorite is the building techniques used here. These 2 pieces hold up the columns and the whole structure, with most of the pieces upside down, looks very cool. Now let's see the French Café. This set included 9 numbered bags and a few loose pieces. The base is already very interesting. I love the complex technique used for the pavement pattern. The windows with the printed glass are built in sideways. You can see how the double ones are attached to the column in the center. There are also some funky angles involved, requiring this technique to hold the wall in place. This hinge is not used as such, unlike the ones built here for the arch above the door. This entire wall is also built at an angle, with the gaps being filled with the cheese slopes from both directions, and the back is covered with these flag pieces. The back of the build is the weak point of the set actually. I know it's a display piece so you probably won't look at it, but an extra layer could have been added to give a smooth finish like on the architecture set. There are tons of little details, the seats, the tables, even the bushes have an extra cone under them to be a bit taller. There really are a lot of things to observe. It's a very interesting build, there are a lot of cool techniques and sections that require your attention. For an experienced builder it shouldn't be difficult, but for a beginner it can be a challenge. Now that we've looked at all 3 sets, let's summarize my thoughts on the LEGO for Adults category. All child-focused LEGO themes have an age rating that clearly distinguishes the level of difficulty of the builds. However, 18 plus became a huge bucket where you really have no idea of the complexity of the build unless you are an experienced builder. There are some smaller sets that aren't as difficult for beginners, such as the Botanical series, but the French Café, despite its size, is at the other end of the spectrum. And I'm not just talking about how easy or difficult the set is to build, but also the way it's designed, because the complexity affects the target audience in more ways than one. The art set is mainly for decoration and probably has a very broad target audience, so it needs to be fairly easy to build. For the most part it succeeds, although some solutions could still be tricky for novice builders. So LEGO could still improve the tools and guidelines they add to the instructions of these sets. The Trevi Fountain should also attract many people, after all it is a famous landmark. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as a first build, but it shouldn't be too much of a challenge for most people. However, there are some building details and techniques that only AFOs are likely to recognize and respect. All in all, it's a good middle ground. I do have a problem with the French Café though. At first glance, you might think it's a mix of the much larger modular buildings and the small postcards, and apparently the first part of a future series. But who is the target audience? If it's aimed at casual builders, they might find some segments challenging to build. Is it for collectors, AFOLs? They will certainly appreciate all the building tricks and ingenious part usage, too bad most of it is hidden at the end. It's not minifig scale, so it won't fit in with modular buildings or dioramas, so how many of them will want to start a brand new collection? My point is that LEGO would need to better define and differentiate its target audience to help the customers. All these different 18+ sets should have some indication of building complexity. I could imagine a 3 or 4 item difficulty rating, probably color coded, that could help the buyers, of course in combination with the theme and the piece count. In this way, larger but easy to build sets could be easily identified, as well as smaller builds full of interesting building techniques more suited for AFOLs. Anyway, I'm sure all of these sets will appeal to many people, as they have a lot of value in their own category. And I'm sure there are others who will skip them, but luckily LEGO has a very wide range of products these days, so you are sure to find your favorite. Mine might be in this box that just recently arrived. So folks, please share your thoughts about these sets and what you think of the difficulty rating I suggested. Would it be useful or completely unnecessary? Let's talk about it in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe with notifications because more exciting LEGO videos are coming soon. See you next time, bye bye.